I don't know, potentially. Okay, we're live, but I need to get a drink.
Okay. Talk to the people. Are there people here? I don't know, but you're live. Well, if you're out there, welcome to the first ever Jim and A.Ron lunch with Jim and A.Ron, rather. And I'm not really sure how this is going to go. We're doing some experiments with hopefully allowing you guys to submit comments and questions that we can respond to into the video. We also have
kind of talk in your microphone.
We have our shit together. Hopefully we'll or we've got some discussion, you know, because Jim and I talk every day about all kinds of different stuff. So, you know, wind this up and we can go. But we're trying to get this Google Hangout to get the moderator thing going. Could you try sending me that invite again? Is there a mechanism to do that from?
I have no idea.
The Hangout? I am drinking. I noticed that Jungle Jim's is the latest, which is this International Bazaar brewery beer shop alcohol deal. As I was walking by, they had this new Game of Thrones licensed beer from Omgang Brewery in Cooperstown, New York. It's Valor Morgulis. It's a double, so it's very Belgium-y. It's 8% alcohol. Ooh, that's interesting. It's pretty big too. The label's nice. It's got the iron coin, the Valor Morgulis coin on it, and then when you pop the cork out of it, the cork says Valor Doharis, which I thought was a nice touch. But it's not bad. It's, you know, it's very Belgium-y. It's got the kind of banana bread thing going.
All beer must be drunk.
All beer must be drunk. The only thing that's disturbing is it's got a metallic finish.
No,
it kind of tastes like the drag. It kind of tastes like this came off the dregs of a keg dregs.
Ugh.
You know, it's been sitting there. It's got that little metallic taste.
Tastes like the Iron Throne.
You know what? Oh shit! I wonder if that is actually.
Oh no, they did that on purpose. I hate iron in any, like, I hate metallic taste in any of my food or beverages.
Yeah, they're not saying anything like that, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did some bullshit where, when confronted with the most feared saying in High Valerian, take a sip and choose your words wisely, for all men must die and all men must serve. Enjoy rich aromas, caramel, and ripe fruit with deep flavors of malty sweetness and fruit esters. Pour slowly so as not to disturb yeast sediment, but with vigor to make a luxurious head and free the bouquet. The fuck? What the fuck?
Free that
Pour
bouquet,
slowly
man.
but vigorously.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I know what that means.
Yeah. That's
I prefer to do most stuff slowly but vigorously.
Yeah, when your lady shouts out in bed, slower, harder, faster, slower, softer. It's like, what the fuck do you want from me? Beer bottle? I just swung wildly from metaphor to metaphor.
That's how you do it. Like Diddy Kong.
So there's no way you can invite me to this thing.
I invited you. I invited you time and time again. Well, log into your Google Plus account. See what happens.
Oh, you think it's a plus deal?
Probably.
Google, man.
Terrible with their authentication, with their messaging services.
I don't want to find friends. I just want to continue to Google Plus. Lunch, Jim and A.Ron. You invited me.
Probably a bunch.
Say something. Something. Weird. Yeah, I also don't want to really participate in this thing. I mean, obviously I want to participate in the thing, but
okay. I opened up chat. Let's see what chat has to say.
Yeah, there should be like a tool that you can use to do the moderator stuff. I don't get it.
There is. There's Q&A. This is the thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
This feature is disabled. Shit.
Why is it disabled?
I don't know, man.
All right. I apologize. We will come back stronger with a little bit more stuff figured out. Well, let's We just had lunch ourselves. We thought about actually eating on the mics, but I don't know if people be down with the whole noshing and glamming and all that crap.
Terrible idea. Terrible.
What do we want to talk about today? We got lunch. We got to entertain people.
I don't know. Didn't you say something about Adam Carolla and his patent troll dilemma?
We want to talk about podcasting in general, right? Because that's probably the most frequently
we talk about that all the time. Yeah, why not?
Frequently thing we're asked. What would you tell a person they want to start a podcast?
Don't do it.
Stay out of our territory.
No. Well, why do you want to start a podcast? First of all,
that's a good point.
That's the first question you want to ask yourself.
Why do we start a podcast?
I started a podcast because I wanted to chronicle my life. Basically, I wanted to take a snapshot of who I was at the time, the kind of things I was into.
An audible Tumblr.
Yeah. So that in, 30, 40 years, I look back and I see that shit and I'm like, oh man, how far I've come. That's basically why I started the very first show that I started.
Right on.
Which was not TV related, obviously.
I started podcasting because at the time, all of us, we had a core group of 3 friends, and you were going to Chicago, and I was moving to the east side of Indy, and I was deathly afraid that we, because that's the thing. It's like, oh yeah, we'll stay in touch. No one ever stays in touch.
No,
and so
you stay in touch on Facebook, like with a message once a month or something.
Right.
Like I do with my friends in Indy now.
Exactly. So what we did is, we were talking about that, I think one day in my living room, and we mentioned like, hey, what if we got Gong Radio, which was your first network going?
Yeah, which was a network of one.
Yeah. And then we're like, we try to talk about topics and stuff, and we decided just to get together at least once a week and talk about things. And that led to Blue Yonder, which eventually led to us doing the TV podcasting, and away we go. So I guess, but everybody, if you're podcasting, you kind of got the desire to at least be heard, right?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, that's one measure of success. I know that's when I first felt like I was successful, when our weekly downloads were bigger than everyone I knew in real life. Like, that can't be my family. It can't be my friend circle. It can't be my coworkers.
Yeah. These must be people. These must be strangers.
And we used to even track it on like Google Analytics. You could see like, everything was clustered in Indiana. And then, you got your first California and your first New York. And that started kind of feeling
China
successful.
And Russia. And then you're like, what the fuck?
Right. But if one of your explicit goals is to attract a large audience, what would you say people to do?
Well, if you want to attract a really large audience, you have to be in something kind of general, but I would say it's a terrible idea to start in something too general. So find your niche and go from there.
So elaborate. What do you mean by find a niche? Are you just saying pick something popular and go start doing it?
Nope. I'm saying find something that you are interested in, because if you're not interested in it, you're not going to keep doing it.
Right.
And that's, bottom line, if you are not having fun podcasting, especially, when there's no money in it, you're not going to keep doing it.
Sure.
You're just not. And same with, like, I don't think a one-man podcast works very well. It's hard to do and make it entertaining. So your friends are probably going to be involved, and they have to be passionate about it too.
Yeah.
Otherwise it becomes a scheduling nightmare and nobody really takes it seriously. And that's what you have to do, is you have to take this, have fun, but take the process seriously.
Now, interestingly enough, a lot of the people that we know that do podcasting have a very unequal distribution of the workload. And I think we're almost unique in the fact that we both are, we're both responsible for generating content. We're both responsible for, maintaining and posting websites and social media. We both engineer the podcast. I feel like that's the way to go, because I hear time and time again, people that are shouldering most of the weight. It's very easy to get burnt out. It's very easy for the guys who are just showing up and having fun, and that kind of take it not as seriously as the person doing all the work, and that leads to hurt feelings.
Yeah, you start to resent the other person. That's never good. And that comes through on the mic too. You can tell.
Yeah, I don't know how you fix that though, because there's precious few people that want to do a podcast, and the people that are actually qualified to do it and are interested in the technical details are even fewer. So I know that might be a piece of shit advice. Find your unicorn, your podcasting unicorn, and make as much as you can.
No, I mean, really, it's about, I think, setting expectations with your co-hosts. Like you can't go into it and just say, yeah, let's do this fun thing. And then when it comes around to the Thursday night when you're recording and they're like, I don't really want to do it tonight. You can't then say, well, you promised to do this. They'd be like, you just told me this was going to be a fun thing we were doing. It's not my fucking job. Get out of here. So you need to set the expectation that we're going to do this every week.
That's not a bad idea. And I'm not saying like get shit in writing or anything, but I know that's something we did when we were brainstorming. We talked about like we have to have a goal, we have to have a schedule, or else, we can try something else. But I mean, it's like, why would we release it public? We could have a weekly Google Hangout where we played Magic long distance or whatever. We don't have to fucking record this and make it into a show. That's a bunch of bullshit no one needs unless you want someone to listen to it.
True. Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to find a big audience, you got to find your niche and you got to figure out, why people would listen to you.
Because there are people out there that are marketing experts, and there are ways to take a podcast that's in kind of a big ocean of podcasters and rise above them all.
Yeah, the 20-something dude talking about pop culture podcast is everywhere. You're never going to break out in that.
That's how we started. And we built a modestly sized audience after 2.5 years. We switched to Breaking Bad, which at the time there was only one other podcast, and we started broadcasting in season 4. We did 10 times the traffic in like the first 2 weeks. Yeah. And we're like, whoa, this is where we should be. Now, interesting, because television podcasting is starting to get crowded. There's got to be 20, 30 Game of Thrones podcasts out there now.
I feel bad for people starting up new ones because they're not going to get the traffic that just was kind of handed to us.
I think that it's possible because I saw a lot of rookie podcasts this year that really made their mark, but they did it by distinguishing themselves somehow by, taking a look at the series from a very analytical book perspective, really deep delving on theory and stuff like that, really catering to the book. But you have to, again, now you're looking to find a niche in a niche.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is part of the find your niche advice, which is, you have to distinguish yourself. You can't just do what everybody else is doing and expect that you're going to get the same results they did. But if you can kind of survey the landscape of the niche that you want to be in and say, this is how people are currently covering this stuff. What can I bring to the table that's different?
Sure.
I think that's a good way to go.
Let's talk about audio quality. Because I feel like, we've gotten this question asked almost every Q&A, almost every podcast panel. And I always say equipment up, like just jump into it, get a good mixer, get 2 good microphones or how many microphones you need, and just start with the good stuff from the beginning. And you're like,
yeah, here's the thing. Like I see so many people, like we're in a Facebook group for podcasters. And I see so many people like, I'm just starting. I don't want to spend any money on this, like literally zero. I don't even want to pay to have my files hosted on a fast server. What can I do? And for those people, that's terrible advice. Just equipment up, right?
But is it? Because the thing, here's my theory, and then you tell me your theory. My theory is it is so hard to get noticed that if you finally do get a show, and we flirted with this because I think our 16th show was like a zombie themed the zombie draft, and the content was excellent, but our sound quality was bogus.
Yeah.
And we had a big blitz where we actually put on our marketing hat and we hit all the zombie forums, and we got a lot of people to listen to it. We didn't retain anything because the feedback we got was, you guys sound like you're broadcasting live from Satan's asshole.
We were.
It's so hard to get that shot. When you finally get it, if you turn people away because you sound like, or you broadcasting from the moon, or there's a lot of Skype lag.
Yeah.
It's terrible. So it's like, again, when I see those people on the podcast forum and they're saying, I refuse to pay for a podcast host, I refuse to pay for a website host, I refuse to pay for equipment.
Yeah.
You're basically saying I'm going to have a substandard product.
I agree with you in everything you said, except I think you need to add to that the fact that you are just going to suck at podcasting when you first start.
That's a good point.
So you don't want to invest a ton of money in something that you are potentially not even going to be doing in 2 months. You know, like I say to those people, like, get a shitty microphone, just scrounge up whatever you can, a tin can that plugs into your computer, and do the podcast for a few months and just refine your process. Like, get better speaking into a mic, get better making outlines and understanding like how the flow of process or a podcast goes. Then you upgrade your equipment. Then you sound good. Then you get your shot. Once your content and your quality of audio are both good.
So hearing you say that, because you see, you don't know if you're going to be doing it in 2 months. One argument would be if you invest $150 into equipment,
Okay.
and you invest in a $5 Libsyn account, and you invest in, you know, even a $3 or $4 whatever shared hosting account, that is going to make you take it seriously. Where if you don't do that, it's like whatever.
Yeah, no, you're probably right to an extent. I just think, you know, having your audio quality be outstanding and having your content quality be poor is still not a recipe for success.
And you can have good equipment and it sounds shitty. We proved that with, because I think we just proved that we posted our Walking Dead pods.
Zombie
And
drill.
yeah, the Zombie Drill, our very first proto podcast that we did like 4 years ago. And we had the mixer that we had now. We actually had better microphones than we have now. But I think either fucked up which source we used because we didn't have the concept of sound checks. We weren't monitoring the audio.
Exactly. Process, right?
Or the microphone, because these things were directional, but they look like they're like a round barrel. So I had it faced away from me and it sounded like I was in a cave and you were sounding good. And it was, and we were also in a big room, a cathedral ceiling, so just echoey like a fucking
and talking into a brick fireplace. Like
it was terrible. So it's like the good equipment is not a guarantor of success.
Yeah.
So I guess one thing I would be adamant about is you're going to be tempted when you start chasing quality to do it incrementally. Like I'm using my laptop's built-in mic and it sucks. So I'm going to get the Logitech $70 gaming headset and it's going to make me sound amazing.
Yeah.
Your rate of return on that investment, I think, is inferior to just buying. Like once you decide to spend, go ahead and research what you can get to sound professional because it's not that much.
No, couple $100 and you'll sound fantastic on a 2-person setup.
$300, you can sound very professional on a 2-person set. Arguably for $150, you know, you get some Shure SM48s.
Yeah, like
those are $40-50 a piece.
A 4-channel mixer. We don't need that many channels.
No,
you can get a smaller 2-channel version of the one we've got.
Indeed,
for half the price, and then you know, $150, you have 2-person setup that sounds incredible.
What are some features of people? Because mixers are intimidating for folks. I know it was for me, and it took us forever to get it set up correctly. But
yeah, so mixers are fairly straightforward as long as you're not doing anything fancy. Just 2 mics into a computer. That's pretty easy. Plug them in, adjust your volume, maybe turn on some compression if you really want it.
That's keyword though, because a lot of mixers in the budget line don't offer compression, and people would spend $50-$60 on a mixer when they could have spent $30 more and get onboard compression.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need the onboard compression though. You can do it with filters in Audacity or GarageBand or whatever.
So that's one of the things.
So if you want to go budget, you can.
You and I kind of set a goal for is to have zero, as close to zero post processing as we can get. And
saves us time.
Onboard compression helps you do that because you don't have to have the perfect mic discipline. You don't have to have the perfect mic placement. You can talk loud, you can talk quiet, and compression just fixes all that shit live.
Yeah.
It's probably the single biggest, like, it's just to me, it's a magic dial. The more you turn it up, the better you sound. But there's
to a degree,
there's a lot of people that love, like there's people on our group that spend 3-4 hours per actual hour producing and listening. They spend 3 or 4 times that on the post-production.
I used to, yeah. And it sounded worse than it does now.
It's interesting.
That's the weird thing. I used to go through and take out all the uhs and ums. That's fruitless because people, I think, want to know that you're having a real conversation, not that you've rehearsed this thing and written it down and you're speaking perfectly at all times.
Right.
I just want to listen to real people talking about real things.
Right.
I used to, go in and try and fix conversational flow. To a degree.
I remember that. You'd really like chop up and move entire pieces of dialogue to fit some kind of theme.
But ultimately, it doesn't like I was spending 10 hours for a half-hour podcast
Sure.
on editing, and that's overkill.
But it's seductive because you can make like
It
the
is.
God edit where it's just seamless. And
Sure.
it's like, this is 3% better than it was before, and no one can even tell I fucked with it.
But that's the thing, no one can tell, right?
That's yeah,
They
and
probably
it's 3% better.
wouldn't notice if you hadn't done it either.
Sure. But some people get off on that. So if you're the type of person that you think that sounds like a good idea, I'm going to spend 15, 20 minutes per podcast just looking at a filter process. I'm going to go through all that. I want the raw. I don't want compression on the track. I want it raw. Then maybe compression's not as important.
Yeah,
I'd still go the 30, 40 bucks to get compression, and you can always turn that shit off.
I would too. But that's, coming from a professional podcast angle. Other than that, I don't know that I would even bother.
If you want to do, the other thing is, if you're doing a Skype podcast, you don't need a mixer. A mixer might help the process because you can actually adjust the person's level, and like on a nice 4-channel, you can get several different feeds into one, and do things that way, do some interesting things that way. But you're not going to get the quality improvement because your limiting factor there is Skype. How's your bandwidth? Yeah. How is the codec going to affect it? All that. Some people can sound really, really great. Some people are going to sound like dog shit. Mm-hmm. Are you calling out over a landline? That kind of thing. So,
sure, there are ways around that if the person on the other end knows what they're doing. But
yeah,
if not, for a general Skype call, yeah, it's.
What do you think about Yeti mics?
I don't know much about the Yeti. I have a blue snowball mic.
Mm-hmm.
I see whenever a newbie comes into the Facebook group and asks like, what mic should I get? Mm-hmm. I'm just starting a podcast. Everyone recommends the snowball. I do not like that. I stay as far away as possible from the snowball.
I would say other newbies are recommending the snowball because it's just a chain, it's snake oil reaction.
It's a very easy thing to do. They're cheap. They just plug right in and plug and play. You plug it in, you record. It works, but it is so hard. The problem with it is that it's a condenser microphone, mm-hmm. and condenser microphones are extraordinarily sensitive as compared to dynamic mics, which is the thing we're using here.
Right.
And the problem with that is it picks up everything. It will pick up crickets outside. It will pick up your refrigerator running, your air conditioner. It will pick up all of that, and you will sound terrible.
They do if you can get an isolated studio.
Yes,
because we had several different versions of the studio that we went through, and I think our best sound ever was somewhere towards the tail end of the Blue Yonder run, where I took one of the rooms in my house. We covered it, all the walls, with egg crate foam, which you can get. That's a great idea, honestly. You go to Walmart, you can get a full-size mattress with the egg crate foam. It'll cover most of one wall. You can tack it up with push pins, and it's $10. Mm-hmm. You get 3 of those things, and you've got most of your studio. And you can actually, it's interesting, when you hang that, you can actually hear the room getting quieter.
Yeah.
But we had a whole room, and we dedicated to that. And it was
shut off the AC. It was on the other side of the house from everything.
We shut off the upstairs. AC. We had to close the door. It got a little swamp ass in there on occasion, but we try to you have to take extraordinary measures to make, in my opinion, mm-hmm. to make condenser mics sound good. They sound great when you do that.
But right now, I can hear a computer running in that closet.
Sure.
This microphone is not
in
picking
our studio.
It up.
Right.
This microphone is probably not picking. Our door is open. This is probably not picking up the air conditioner or the heater.
We usually close the door.
We do, but it honestly doesn't make a huge difference.
It doesn't.
Like dynamic mics are just not as sensitive. So you got to get them a little closer to your mouth.
Right.
You got to, talk a little bit louder, but
you have to have mic discipline, because if you don't, you definitely, there's like a 15-20 degree arc where it works really well, and then it really falls off. So you have to pay attention.
Like, I just think no newbie is going to be able to get the conditions required to use a condenser microphone in an effective way. So don't recommend that. Please, God, stay away. If you're a newbie podcaster and you're thinking about getting into it, stay away from condenser microphones. Get a dynamic mic.
Right. And you can
also, condensers need phantom power, which you may not have on your mixer.
Indeed.
That's just another wrinkle in the soup that you don't need, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, doing full-blown condensers, you got like 3 configuration options you got to make just to get it to work.
Yeah.
And I was, funny enough, I actually was helping someone a couple of weeks ago on the group, trying to get, it's like, oh, I got the mixer and I got the mic and all this stuff. Now, what do I do?
Mm.
And it's like, you know, do you have this turned on? Do you have that turned on? Is the phantom power going? You know, what are all the different levels? It's like launching a fucking space shuttle.
Yeah.
What else what else we should talk about podcasting?
I don't know. You want to talk about the patent troll stuff?
Let's talk about the patent troll stuff.
Okay.
So you want to give us a brief rundown over what happened, what we're talking about?
Sure. So there's a company called Personal Audio who I think that had a patent that claimed to cover podcasts. Basically, it's a
serialized media.
Yeah, it's a way of distributing over the internet. Actually, it's a way of listing almost. It's like if you list things as a serialized form with episode numbers and all that stuff, you distribute it over the internet automatically. That is covered under our patent. And so now they have gone after like CBS and NBC and Fox and Adam Carolla specifically, who's kind of at the crux of this as far as, I guess, the podcast community is concerned.
Are we affected by this patent? And why or why not?
Probably not. I don't know, because I think the patent is bullshit anyway.
Obviously.
It's like, can Amazon patent a shopping cart?
Well, no. Or one-click checkout.
No, they fucking can't, because it's a action that you perform on the site. It's not a method for checking people out.
But they did indeed do that, and they tried to enforce it. I don't
know what happened with that, but
yeah, I don't know either.
Maybe they won it, maybe they didn't. Regardless, saying Personal Audio saying that they have this patent is ridiculous, because there is much prior art. They patented this thing in 1996, I think, is when the patent was filed. Or was it 2000 something, like 2001?
Well, so
there is prior art to 96.
I think in 96 they actually patented it as a way to distribute digital magazines in like PDF form.
Yeah.
Then in 2005 and 6, I think in 2006, when they saw the rise of podcasts, and this is where they became a patent troll. They're like, you know what? We'll file an extension to say, oh yeah, we covered these types of medias too. And they drew a lasso around video, around audio, around everything. And then they started filing not lawsuits. To cease and desist, but like damage lawsuits.
Yeah, they were claiming patent infringement. It's silly to me. I think, you know, the concept of sending files via RSS has been around for much longer than they have. And I don't know, I think it's funny that the patent is made specifically for magazines, is what it mentions, but the company name is Personal Audio.
Right.
What does that have to do with magazines?
Personal Audio does not distribute any audio content. It's solely to sue people that are doing the work.
Yeah.
Which people quibble about whether they're technically a patent troll, because the principals of the company did develop the patent. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, a process patent, when you're not talking about smashing atoms and pressing metal and extruding plastics and flipping benzene rings, is worthless. Like saying, I'm going to patent the process of clicking a button and letting someone check out automatically. That's not that's like saying,
can you patent the process of sending someone through the register at a store?
Or like,
no, you can't.
Or patenting the process of launching a human into space. And now I'm going to sue NASA and Russia. No, you can patent an engine,
the device that sends them into space, certainly. Yeah.
And you can patent there's all kinds of different,
like, that's the thing. Patenting code is one thing. Like, this is the actual code that runs this thing. If you want to change it, if you want to do it your own way, you've got to change it substantially.
Although free software militants think that that's not even, like, that's literally.
I disagree. I mean, how else do you compare it to? How else do you apply patents to technology on the internet?
Well, I mean, because they're saying, well, it's speech, it's just a language. It's like, well, motherfucker, every patent is. There's English language describe. You cannot then copy that phrase that is in the patent document and say it's free speech.
And you could say that about atoms, right? Oh, I've patterned these atoms in a certain way that produces an engine.
Right.
It's a language and it's free. Fuck you.
Right.
Fuck you. That you know what you're doing there. You're twisting the definitions of
But
things.
the patent office doesn't, because none of those people, I vision them all as like 95-year-old men with like cotton coming out of their ears, and they're just rubber stamp, a computer, whatever, you know.
Well, it may not be the patent. So the people at the patent office probably don't understand any of this stuff.
That's a problem.
But not because they're too old. I think the judges might be too. Like a lot of the judges are probably
that is additional problem.
Of a generation that does not understand this stuff.
Sure.
And so trying to get them to enforce or rule on laws that they don't understand is rough.
So flash forward to Adam Carolla.
Yeah. So Adam Carolla got sued by this patent troll. And he set up, like, at first he set up a Kickstarter. Was it a Kickstarter? No, it was just a fundraiser on his site. Is that right?
Yeah.
To where he's asking people for like save podcasting, save everything that is good about the universe.
And he got his nice guy Adam Carolla voice, where when he's talking about sick kids and fun charities, like, you know, we're all just nice people and we are trying to have a good thing on the internet. But these patent trolls, you know, the whole snarky, yeah, everybody's fucking asshole and I hate everyone and everyone's stupid but me. He kept that voice out of it.
Yeah. Which is smart, but a little disingenuous.
Especially when we get to the punchline here. But yeah, he's raising money.
So he's raising money. He raised like $500,000 to fight.
He got Earwolf on board. He got the Nerdist Industries on board.
And a whole bunch of podcasters from around the internet.
Talking about it, encouraging their listeners to send them money. We kind of thought about maybe sending a little heat their way at one point, I thought.
I think so, yeah.
And then we just, something shiny bounced in our path and we didn't do it.
Well, I also like supporting the people who can actually get the job done. And I don't know that Carolla was that guy or is that guy. I think the EFF also has a campaign. I think donating to them is far more important.
To EFF would be a solid, and especially
because they have actual lawsuits in the works saying this patent is invalid. We want to overturn it.
And they're not trying to save their ass. They're actually trying to promote freedom on the internet.
They're doing the thing that they say they are doing. Whereas Adam Carolla seems like, well, we're getting sued. We're going to have to shut down our business if we don't do this. So let's look for money to help us fight it.
So he raised almost $500,000 to do this legal fee. And they went through, 7 months of pretrial discovery and doing all this stuff. And it was about to go to trial. And Adam promised that he would not settle, that he's going to make sure this goes to trial. Because that's the thing. If you can go to trial and the judge strikes it down, they can never do that again.
Yeah.
Then, and he said, I am not going to settle. 3 weeks before the trial, he settles, and there is a 45 or 90-day gag order where he cannot talk about it.
And another key point being he settled without prejudice,
which
is a massive problem.
So explain that.
For him, it's a huge problem.
No. Actually, what happened is that he let Personal Audio dismiss the case without prejudice.
Yeah.
So do you know the difference in dismissing without and dismissing with prejudice?
I do. Without prejudice means they can basically come back and sue him again at any time.
And anyone else involved in the lawsuit.
Yeah. Now, so that to me is the dumbest concept of all.
Yeah.
For Adam Carolla directly. Why would he want to go through all of this shit again potentially in the future when right now he has a chance to settle this?
Because Personal Audio, it wasn't like, oh yeah, you're right, this isn't an infringing patent. They're basically said, oh, we thought you guys were making way more money in podcasting.
Yeah.
That's podcasting's dirty little secret. There is hardly any money to be made.
If Personal Audio really wanted to be dicks, they turn around the next day and they refile the suit against him.
Yeah, but it's expensive. But the other thing is it's asymmetrically expensive.
Yes, it's more expensive for Adam Carolla than
like by a factor of 10, because the presumption is you infringe on the patent. You have to prove your innocence. It's not that this person's an asshole and being a dick. So we finally, last week, Adam gets on his podcast or someone's podcast and he's talking about it. And he's like, you know what? It would cost us probably another $1 million to go ahead with the lawsuit. And they said they pinky promised that they wouldn't sue, even though they can. They pinky promised they wouldn't sue us or any of the other people that were named as friends of us in the court. so the Nerdist and all those guys, did not save the internet, did not do shit. They basically burnt up $700,000 to no real end.
I mean, I guess the end is, Personal Audio did some discovery of their own, found out that Corolla was not making much money. If he is in fact the biggest podcaster on the internet, that means everyone else is making less money. So why go after anyone?
So then they sued CBS successfully, or actually I think they settled, and CBS had to pay $1.8 million.
No. So that's getting appealed.
Oh, because I thought
there
CBS
was a verdict. I thought
because I thought CBS was overjoyed that they only had to pay $1.8 million, because for CBS that's like nothing. That's filming 5 minutes of 2.5 Men.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, really?
That's Charlie Sheen's Coke budget.
We can make this go away and make money forever on the internet for 1.8. Where's my checkbook? Where's my gold pin?
Yeah.
But all of us little to medium size, I feel like this Personal Audio people, they're just sitting and waiting for us to fatten up.
Sure.
Like
they're waiting for us to become
and they're
radio.
like, oh, when are you going to get profitable? When are you going to, you still got some meat on them bones, and then they swoop up. It's bullshit.
Ugh.
Yeah, right. I can still feel your ribs. We'll come back in another couple years.
Yeah. We'll get you hooked up to the foie gras machine.
The big problem I also have is, because I don't know, the result seemed like it was okay. They made these guys go away. Adam Carolla's happy. Most of the big podcasting people have hailed it as at least a partial victory, or a first time someone's actually done anything but roll over.
Yeah.
I just have a problem with the fact that he crowdsourced almost $500,000 and then just unilaterally made the decision to drop it. And he raised the money saying that I will be your champion.
Yeah.
It's like Adam Carolla comes to me and says, hey, A.Ron, I want to go buy a Ferrari. It's going to be $300,000, and you and I can split it. It's a great deal for that type of Ferrari. And I'm like, sure, Adam, yeah, go ahead, let's do that. And I give him the money. He goes to the auction, doesn't get the Ferrari, doesn't call me, decides, fuck it, I want wheels. He brings home a Taurus. It's like,
because the Ferrari was going to cost $800,000.
Yeah, like he could have called me. I mean, why not at least try another round of fundraising? Like,
that's a good point.
We're burning through $100,000 a month, but we are doing it. We're taking we're making these people uncomfortable. Let's, can you meet me halfway? Can I do others? But he just fucking rolled and didn't. And again, it's like, it was shocking.
Protect anyone either.
It was shocking because it was like all set to go to court, and then there's a settlement, which he said he wouldn't do. And people are like, well, let's wait till he hears to say, oh, there's a gag order. I don't know. Just that part of it didn't sit right with me.
Sure. I don't like it either. It doesn't actually accomplish anything at this point, other than to show them that there's not much money in podcasting at the moment.
Right.
But like you said, as soon as they're coming back at him. And now they're after Fox, they're after NBC, where there is money.
Sure.
I hope that one of those guys fights them.
They're not going
wins
to.
it for everyone.
Because it's always, that's the other problem with this patent thing. It's always, always, always easier to just settle.
Here's the thing. Could he sue Netflix? Netflix's business model is that. Listing and delivering content in an episodic, serialized fashion. I mean, Netflix is, if in fact this patent is valid, Netflix is probably the biggest infringer of that patent. So if he takes this to its logical conclusion, Personal Audio, I'm talking about, not he, them, they're going up against Netflix. And when your entire business model is at stake, you're probably going to fight. Netflix would fight. I think it's right for NBC or Fox to fight if they want to get into the online game, because they don't want that hanging over their head, right?
Sure. Yeah, I just thought it was a big bummer.
But the EFF is where my hopes really rest, because I know that they actually want to fix this thing for the right reasons. They have no investment in it whatsoever. Like, as far as they don't have any skin in the game, and yet they're willing to go in there and say, this is not right, let's fix it.
For the principle of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, to me, is the best reason for them to be doing what they're doing.
Right on.
So if I was going to donate, I'd donate to the EFF. There's a page for it somewhere. You can probably just search EFF.
EFF.org.
Sure, yeah. But it's when I tried to find the podcasting thing, it was buried because it's from a very long time ago.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. But, basically EFF does a lot of stuff for a lot of, they're the ones that fight back against police encroachment.
Yeah.
You know, they're the ones, you know, that some of them are at the forefront of fighting like the fact that the cops felt like they had the right to search your cell phone if you are arrested for any reason. And they're the ones that fought, you know, a lot of times they defend whistleblowers. They defend, there's a lot of things. Like I remember when DVDs first got cracked, the encryption was incredibly weak and incredibly simple. And the DVD consortium started suing and trying to put people in jail that were disseminating this information about how far their pants were around their ankles. And the EFF stepped up and defended them.
Good.
So they do a lot of good work, and they've had a lot of successes. But you know,
Yeah.
this shit is expensive to litigate.
And that's the thing. The EFF could take that 500 grand that Adam Carolla made and do a hell of a lot more with it than he did. A hell of a lot more, because their campaign to do this podcasting thing only got like $60,000, and they're still pursuing it.
And I'm guessing that Adam Carolla's lawyers aren't working out of any sense of freedom, or it was all about
money,
covering his ass and, you know, spending money and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, like he said, he had like 19 lawyers on it at a time. What the fuck do you need 19 lawyers on figuring out if there's prior art for podcasting?
Right.
Come on, I could do that on the Wayback Machine in 10 minutes.
It does seem like the whole campaign was wrong-headed. Like, to me, it seems like when you're defending something like that, your best bet is to kind of, you know, not be aggressive, but kind of sit back and be the amorphous blob. Like, you know, you handle requests for information, you get your own stuff.
Oh, I can do that.
But why are they just spending literally thousands of man hours doing stuff? Like, all that work is being done, but what the hell are they doing with it? I don't know. So
yeah,
that was a little minor disappointment. Anything else we want to talk about?
I don't know. You've been talking about this NFL thing. You want to talk about that at all?
Do you want to talk about the NFL thing? Because it's like,
I'm super curious how it plays out eventually.
Let's talk about it for Bill Simmons.
Yes, that's what I meant. Not the actual. I don't care about Ray Rice.
And this is something that, like, because, you know, a lot of people, every time we get a Q&A, people ask us, like, you know, if you'd have the opportunity to do a professional podcast, like for HBO.
What do you think we're doing?
AMC. No, I mean, like a professional podcast
where we actually make money on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and so maybe we'll talk about that at the end too. And we've always said, yeah, that'd be really cool. Like, I would love to do a better job than Chris Hardwick does.
But there are caveats.
There are caveats, because I don't think that Chris Hardwick is an idiot. And when he speaks his mind, he usually comes across like I saw him on Real Time with Bill Meyer.
Yeah.
Very smart guy. I've heard when every once in a while he'll get the right guest on the Nerdist and he'll stop his fucking rabid fanboy act for 1 second and start talking about business or technology. And you can tell that he's got some real passion, but he covers it all up with the, hey, I'm Chris Hardwick and I'm an Uber nerd. And oh my God, it's like, duh. So the thing is,
he's a game show host.
At
his core, he is a comedian and game show host. What do you expect?
And that's what AMC wants. Like, if AMC had us come on to do Talking Mad, we couldn't swear, which is kind of a problem. We couldn't ever say anything bad about the show.
That's the problem.
And we'd have to steer guests away from critical, and we'd be pressured to have guests that don't give a shit about the show. They're on there to promote stuff.
Yeah, what do I need one of the dudes from Community on my show talking about The Walking Dead? There's a billion cast members and production crew working on The Walking Dead who would be infinitely more interesting to talk to.
We might get to read a tweet or two. We're certainly not going to get 3 or 4 minutes to read a very insightful take from a listener or from a watcher that has a very valid point, has done a lot of research. It's almost offensive what they're doing to, you know, add fan content to this thing. And honestly, I don't know that HBO would be a lot better, because HBO on their public side has standards that they do not apply to their creative side. And it's like, at what point would it be worth selling out? Now, I'm not saying I don't have my price.
It's $10 million in the right chic.
50.
I was trying to lower your price. All the sheiks out have been calling me saying that 50 million. It's a little too much.
So Bill Simmons, perfect example. He's by far the most popular personality on ESPN. He's on the broadcast. He talks about basketball. He's got a New York selling, 2 times New York selling best New York Times bestseller author. He founded Grantland, which is this long form news magazine think piece on sports and pop culture that I quite admire and enjoy.
Oh, Grantland is not the network. It's just a thing like
What
on
do
the
you
network.
mean? No, Grantland is its own site, but it's owned by ESPN Disney.
Okay, but you said Grantland was like a long form column.
Oh, well, no, it's a collection of that. It's like a news article.
Yeah,
it's
like
Playboy without the dirty pictures.
Sure.
That's the kind of content there, or of New Yorker Variety. Yeah, lots of stuff like that. And just and it's not about BuzzFeed style link bait and things like that. It's all about getting, 10, 20,000 word pieces and long form journalism and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Bill Simmons, the NFL's been in a lot of trouble lately. They've had a big domestic violence case, several domestic violence cases blow up in their face. And Roger Goodell and the NFL owners look like pieces of shit in it. And 2.5 weeks ago, Bill Simmons on his podcast, that very popular podcast, he gets something like 1 million downloads a month on each one of these things. He's 2 orders of magnitude bigger than us, at least. He gets on his podcast and he just speaks his mind. He said, I watched Roger Goodell's news article or his press conference, and I don't believe him when he says, I didn't see the tape of this NFL player punching his wife out. I don't believe him. I think it's fucking bullshit. That man is a liar. And then he said, this was probably what really got him in trouble. He said, and if I get an email from someone saying that I'm in trouble because I called Roger Goodell a liar on my own podcast, I don't even want to hear it. You leave me alone. I get to call this guy a liar on my podcast. 2 days later, he's suspended for 3 weeks.
from the network that he started. Yeah.
Earlier, this is on his podcast. Earlier, a personality, Stephen A. Smith, on a very popular television show, you can quibble about what he really said versus what he said, but in my interpretation was he was asking women to do their part, not to provoke men to violence, that they have to do their part to not provoke men to violence. He got suspended for 1 week. You call the fucking NFL commissioner a liar, which I personally believe. I don't believe this guy didn't see the tape, or if he did, he's willfully, like, this guy can't fucking get his hands on a tape. That
I thought it came out that he actually did see the tape.
Well, ESPN reported that there's a lot of evidence that says that that there's at least one police officer said, no, I gave them the tape. I talked to an executive at NFL and they said they saw it and it was awful.
Okay.
But we don't know the name of the police officer. We don't know the name of the executive. So there's a little bit, but no, I as a man looking at this in the court of public opinion, I think that their liar status is somewhere dangling above electric wire and completely pants on fire.
Okay.
That's what I think their lying status is. But Bill Simmons, this very powerful guy in his network, got smacked down and suspended for 3 weeks for speaking his mind. And I'm pissed because I'm a huge fan and it's in the middle of football season and I'm not getting his NFL picks podcast and I'm not getting his NFL Friday articles. And it sucks. And there's, hundreds of thousands of people posted hashtag Free Simmons. People on his own network came to his defense. And it doesn't matter because ESPN Disney's like, no, we don't want this guy getting out of control. We don't want him pissing off the league that we're paying $15 billion for 5 years of coverage. We don't want to lose Monday Night Football. There's too much money at stake. And that's bullshit. And I never, ever want to be in that position.
Yeah. Like, that's the kind of position being beholden to AMC or HBO or anything outside of just our own whims.
And it'd be one thing
terrible for us.
It'd be one thing to get suspended from like talking mad, but to be told that I cannot get on Twitter, I cannot get on my personal website, I can't get on Instagram, I can't get on another podcast. I don't even know what the hell I would do. So I feel like it's really crystallized in my mind that we always want to stay independent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
I'd rather
that's the only way ahead for us.
I'd rather not podcast than podcast with a gun to my head.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also, it casts a pretty bad light on everything else he does at this point, because how do we know that he's giving us his true opinion on things anymore?
Sure.
Like, if all of a sudden, so what would happen if we were doing a Watching Dead podcast that was sponsored by AMC? And this is a little bit of our Patreon video as well. It would sound different, but if we ever did go off the rails and we said something that they didn't like and we got suspended for 3 weeks, we come back, we don't say anything about it because we can't.
Right.
Now, do you trust that we're still giving you our honest opinion on things? Or do you think that that experience has changed us and our commentary?
Sure.
I don't know how it wouldn't. Like, Bill Simmons has got to be afraid now of being potentially fired from his own network.
Right.
Based on things that he says. So he's not going to come back and even go after them more aggressively.
No.
Or even go after them as aggressively as he did. He's going to tone it down. And that's a problem.
He's going to bide. I think he's going to bide his time until it's up, and then he's going to jump ship and form the Bill Simmons network and be wildly successful. And I hope he does. But I've heard from small-time podcasters that's one of the reasons, people say, why don't you have stars on your show? There's several reasons. Number one, because you have to talk to agents and you have to horse trade and you have to do stuff. And then in my experience, you don't get to just ask them whatever you want. You have to play by a certain amount of rules or you will never get those interviews again. And the more that becomes part of your show, the more these people have power over you. And it would it'd be a huge amount of fun to talk with Vince Gilligan and talk about Breaking Bad and we're going to be obviously going out to the Breaking Bad Fest and talking with some stars and cast members. And we have nothing but glowing things to say about these people because we fucking love the show.
That's sure. That's a key thing too.
And everything, it's all good until things aren't. And then I've heard from people say that I just don't feel comfortable after I've had these pleasant conversations with people to really savage them because they're our friends. And
that's probably.
I understand. It's perfectly understandable. I would have that same pressure too. That's kind of one of the reasons why we kind of want to aggressively stay on the outside, because what fun is it to not be able to say and speak and complete your mind without having to worry about hurting people's feelings?
It's not even that, right? That undercuts the stuff that we're actually doing. Like, that undercuts our podcast, and that undercuts even if our audience doesn't notice it,
right? It
does them a disservice because they're not getting honest opinions anymore.
And that's the thing, is like, I don't want to be like, I don't see myself as a critic, a professional critic.
I don't either. Yeah.
I see myself as a fan. And some of the things that fans do is bitch about stuff that annoys them.
Sure.
You really can't. It's interesting because Sepinwall does get interviews of people regardless of whether he cares about their shit. Like, he savaged, and I'm going to be talking about that in the TV podcast, savaged the Homeland, savages a lot of stuff that goes on the bridge. He still gets this thing because there's a certain point where you get big enough where the power swings back the other way. And it's like, I need this guy, and I might not need him for this show because he's fucking killing me. But when I go back to do my next show, I don't want this guy carrying a personal vendetta against me because I need his ears and I need his eyeballs. So if you get powerful or respected enough to where you can do that.
Yeah, that's an interesting two-way street, I guess.
Like Roger Ebert, think about how many public spats directors got in with him, and they never went in that guy's favor, ever.
No, they're always in Ebert's favor because Ebert was kind of smarter than a lot of people. Sure. But also, he had the clout.
And that funny thing is Ebert would never abuse that. If you made a good movie, even if he fucking hated you, he would still tell you that was a good movie.
Yeah, this is why I go back to Giant Bomb so often when I'm talking about, like, kind of what I want and why you go back to Penny Arcade,
right?
Frankly, why those two kind of stand out as the things to emulate for us, because they don't run into those traps.
Sure.
They keep themselves independent. They give their honest opinion, and I can tell that it's their honest opinion.
You don't agree with it all the time, but you would never say, "Oh, you're a fucking shill, Jeff."
And I know that when they say something is bad, I know why they're saying it.
Yeah.
And I know if I would agree with them.
Yeah.
And so, like, when they say, "Oh, you shouldn't buy Destiny," for instance,
right?
I say, "Yes, you're absolutely right, because I know what type of gamer you are. I know that you're giving me your honest opinion on it." Whereas if they were to come in, like if they had an ad on their podcast for Destiny, and then they came in and they glossed over some of the things that I had heard about the internet complaining about,
right,
I would have been like, these guys aren't telling me what they really think.
Sure.
They're getting paid not to.
I sometimes worry since I'm not, we're not professional critics, like what people think when I'm very critical of The Walking Dead, and yet I do a podcast on like True Blood, and I'm starting one about American Horror.
Yeah.
That even on their best day really isn't in Walking Dead's league.
Or 24.
Or 24.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that like I kind of hope that if you listen to those podcasts, you can tell there's a difference in the series. And the reason I get pissed at Walking Dead is because it disappoints me.
Yeah.
It tries to be something that is it doesn't accomplish the objectives that I think it's trying to do. Whereas like True Blood, well, honestly, it did a really shitty job last season, but there's, it's trying to do something different. And I kind of graded on a curve. I thought Ebert was really good at that too. Like you give 4 stars to a movie like Fast and Furious 6 and give 4 stars to Godfather, but no one would think he's trying to say that Fast and Furious is better. He's saying for a brainless action flick, this is the best a brainless action flick can be.
Yeah, he rates it within the genre. And I think that is why we give Walking Dead so much shit, is because it is firmly trying to be an HBO quality drama. But it's falling short of that in the drama department. The action department is great sometimes.
No, they advertise it in the same breath as Mad Men and Breaking Bad.
Yeah, and I feel like they've been going away from that a little bit, and this is becoming more of an action show as it's progressed,
which I think is a great
fine.
Idea.
Yeah, they just need to, like, season 1 didn't do the following seasons any service by pretending to be something it wasn't going to continue to be.
Well, but they didn't know that.
I know. Yeah.
That's one thing I forgot to mention in our preview show is that this is the first year that they have had, this is the first time that there's been 3 consecutive seasons starting with the same showrunner. That's never happened in Walking Dead history before.
Yeah.
That is incredible. So that is one reason to be optimistic. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Frank Darabont wanted it to be the show that it became. I don't know that Glenn Mazzara, I don't think even cared. Like, he was just a fucking babysitter. It wasn't his baby. He wasn't passionate about the project. He was cashing checks. Scott Gimple, I think, does care. But we'll see, We're getting a little TV casty.
We are, but I don't know what else to say about being independent. Being independent equals good, and
being a shill
equals
bad,
what we want to do.
Although it could also equal rich, which has its charms.
It does, but only if you're willing to get out of the game, and I don't want to get out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, so would you do an AMC show if in the clause you could also continue to do your own show?
They wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
If they were censoring my voice on their official show, they want to censor it everywhere.
Right.
They don't want host of Talking Dead comes out as hating the show.
Yeah.
On his own podcast. Yeah, that would just completely destroy what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Then, like I said, I'm completely fine with that.
They would never do that. I think there probably is a number where I would say, okay, I'm going to do this show for 2 years, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to be done with that. I'm going to come back and I'm going to speak my own voice again.
Right.
Now that I have the actual funding to do it the way that I want to do it.
Sure.
I don't have to rely on fuck you money. You
Yeah.
know? That number exists, but it's so far outside of what anybody would offer me to do this thing that it will never happen.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Bill Simmons is an interesting case. I reference him a lot too. And, because we learn a lot from the people we admire. And we learn how not to do things too. There's several important of those lessons I've taken away from Penny Arcade. But he did this weird blended path where he had a unique voice, and he accomplishes probably 90% plus of what he intends to do within the confines of ESPN. And he's gotten rich and powerful doing so, to the point where now he can probably say, fuck you, I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm amazed at how well he's been able to do that.
So you're saying he doesn't need ESPN, Disney, whatever?
No, what I'm saying is he was able to, like, somehow his voice and being critical and being a fan's fan and doing crazy pop culture allusions and using salty language and never has been done before in the history of sports writing. And he's gotten rich and powerful doing that within a corporate framework that's enabled him to do again.
But only to a certain point.
Again, he couldn't drop the F-bomb. He couldn't do this stuff. But I think he's fine with that because he's making like $4 or $5 million a year. Plus he's the executive producer of the ESPN's very successful 30 for 30. He's got the Grantland thing going.
Fantastic series.
Like I wish there was, for whatever reason, entertainment doesn't work that way. Like I don't think we could do that within an entertainment framework.
Well, I mean, these big companies want the alternative voice, right? They want to be all things to all people. So if you are interested in sports in any capacity, you want to come to ESPN because they've got content.
They're the world leader.
Sure. But that only works to a certain point. Mm-hmm. Like once you call the head of the NFL a liar, that's where we draw the line and that's where we cut you off from the thing that you're building.
You know what I'd love to do, and I think that would be a good fit for us if we're just, dreaming.
Like, imagine, let me follow this to the conclusion. Imagine our season 3 finale podcast as a AMC sponsored show.
We did that. That's the Patreon pitch video.
It is. I
don't have to imagine it.
We can't even do that podcast. Like, we can't do that show because I don't know about you. I wouldn't be able to get on the air and say I enjoyed this stuff.
No.
I literally would not be able to get up and lie to people like that.
Right.
So that moment comes, I don't know what I do. I quit my job or something and hope that I can do something else.
So what if like HBO would give us a half hour after True Detective and they say we have no editorial concerns at all? Yeah. You can swear. You can say you hated the episode. You can say you're concerned with the episode. You can say someone did a terrible job. I feel like that
want that in writing.
But they wouldn't. they would also have some things like, I wonder if that would be like a 90% show. Like we couldn't probably talk about other networks, and that
doesn't change our commentary on the show though.
And there's a lot of things we couldn't say that we wouldn't say anyway. I mean, obviously, we couldn't get there and do sexual and gender slurs and racial slurs.
We would never do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm saying I'm sure there would be some conditions.
Even cursing. I don't need to curse when I podcast.
And you really?
Yeah.
Try to go. I challenge you to go a week without.
I certainly could. I went 18 years without doing it when I was a kid, man.
But that's the thing. Like once that seal broke, it's like you're at a bar and you drink 6 beers and it's like, I got to go piss. And I got to piss after every one because he broke the seal. The seal has been broken on my self-expression.
But I think I could fucking go without cursing.
Well, maybe.
But that wouldn't be a deal breaker because anything that, as long as they don't have editorial control over what I'm going to say about the show, I'm probably okay with it. Like, I don't need to talk about other networks to tell you what I think about this show.
No, I agree.
I don't need to curse to tell you what I think about the show.
That's what I'm saying. I think that I could live within something like that. Doing a podcast for HBO where you can't swear and do all that stuff. We did it for The Leftovers. I don't know that I'd do it again.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they didn't give us any kind of editorial stipulations at all on the podcast.
They did, and we don't have any. We can talk about this because there's no gag order. I mean, I would hate to piss the guy off just because
I don't think it'll piss him off.
But they did vet our podcast through lawyers.
Yeah.
Before they put on the air, we couldn't use theme music, which I think is obviously fair use.
You don't want.
I get it.
Infringe on copyrights.
We were given a guideline of maybe we could say an F word, but certainly not several.
Yeah, they said not excessive cursing.
Yeah, and the couple. I mean, that's the other thing. So it's like I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I would enjoy doing that. It's not me. It's not how I talk.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much.
There are some listeners because I get at least once a season on a show. Someone said, "I like your show. I wish you didn't curse so much."
Sure.
And I don't know what to tell them because that's how I talk.
Yeah, that's just who we are. I don't know. I draw a very solid line being censored as far as my opinion and being censored as far as the actual words I use. I don't care so much about saying that I fucking hated something versus I hated something.
No, I mean, in principle, I see. I guess I find it harder than you because I remember a couple of times we've resolved to, before we actually done any of the shows we've done, we've resolved to maybe we shouldn't swear because it's harder. and this is true. It's harder to have an explicit cast on iTunes than a non-explicit cast. But it just, you know, I never was able to do it. Like, in fact, I dropped a couple F-bombs in a fucking HBO podcast we had to go back and remove.
Yep.
So I don't know, man. I can keep it control in public, and I can keep control around my son. But when I'm just talking to you, it doesn't feel right. The beers probably don't.
Yeah, the
don't
whiskey
help.
and the beers.
I think that feels like a good lunch.
Yeah, with no food.
So if you guys, I'm drinking banana bread here, 8% ABV. If you guys would like to hear us talk about a particular topic, if you'd like to give us feedback, why don't we use the TV email, tv@baldmove.com. If you'd like to see us, give us some feedback on this, because we'd like to know how we're doing. I kind of think in my mind that the way we're going to do this is we'll have like a 15 or 20 minute thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully that'll give people enough time to join our live feed, and then people can contribute to the there's a Q&A function where you can submit comments and questions and we can answer them on air. That'd be pretty cool. But
I think you have to enable it before you go live.
Might be. This is all new to us, and we got some fancy stuff coming as far as the cameras and
I want to do this. Is a kind of a bad angle because we're looking at each other, but the cameras.
Yeah, you're just off on you just stay on your side of the glass. God damn it. But we're going to have some multiple camera angles. We got some cool stuff coming. We just have to figure it out technically. So,
yep.
Thank you so much for supporting us. You are the reason we can remain independent and the reason that we are able to be successful at that. Very much appreciate everybody that's supporting us on Patreon.
Yeah.
And
we've got
can't thank you enough.
Some other interesting things to come on Patreon as well.
Sure. Stay tuned.
All right. See you.